Feels like Christmas.
Getting there.
It feels like Christmas. I guess I could say Christmas Eve, huh?
And I'm telling you, conference tourney week, conference tourneys are almost as exciting as the big one. I'm telling you. A lot of casual fans don't tune in as much for conference tournaments, but those are almost as exciting because you got such familiarity. But some people don't see them.
Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of these games today. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm
Oh,
pretty.
yep. All the big conference tournaments start next week.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
But a lot of the best mid tier ones are now.
Okay, and we're back once again. It is Saturday, March 8th, 2025. College Hoops RX. It's your boy Sosa Picks back with my co-host and resident genius Spin Doc Sports. How we feeling today? It feels like Christmas, don't it?
Feels great, man. Feels great. We got some great action today. Got a whole bunch of games, whole bunch of value, whole bunch to talk about. And I know that this doesn't help the free plays that I gave yesterday. First free play losing day, 1 and 2, first free play losing day in almost a week. But if you were in VIP, wink, wink, you're in VIP. If you see that link at the bottom, you went 4-0, 4-0, full sweep. Got a team that is just riding an absolute wave right now. I showed you their out of bounds play the other day. That would be the Monarchs of ODU. And we rode the under train on a number of games. So yeah, it's been pretty good. Been a good day. And my favorite team in all the land, my son's team, we got our quarterfinal match tonight. So I'll be watching that. Watch some. I actually got to watch some great high school ball. The original team that my son played on for traveling in AAU, all those kids played in a section game last night. So unfortunately, they didn't win. But I was talking to some of the parents, and I'm like, I was here coaching them for their first game, so I'm gonna be here for their last one. So it was just a reminder that Suns team will not suffer the same fate tonight. We will march on.
That's what. Listen, that's. It's always lovely to be able to know ball and actually be able to coach it and and understand the ins and outs of the game beyond just a betting side.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm excited for that for you as well, and obviously young Tony, the real G of the family.
He's ready. We're ready tonight, but unfortunately, can't do any lines on those games. So let's talk about the teams that you can. And
you good. Don't even see this. That's the problem. That's our.
No. I've done fake lines before. I won't lie. I've done fake lines just to see how well I can do it, but high school's unpredictable, man. High school's super unpredictable.
Leave the kids out of this.
No. I did that a few times this first year playing, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna skip that one. Like let's not corrupt these kids any further. But we do have bracketology. Big bracketology update. There was some significant movement, and there will be significant movement this weekend. So I posted it on my feed last night with the wave bye. That'd be Boise State. Dropped last night to Colorado State. I said for 3 days straight they can't do that. They had to win against Colorado State to stay in the mix. They had to win against Colorado State, and they had to win one game at least in the Mountain West tournament. They failed to do that. Not only is it a loss against Colorado State, it's actually a loss at home. So that's going to hurt them even more. From a net perspective, Colorado State 56th in net, 1-5 against quad one. and 2 losses against quad 2, 2 losses against quad 3. That one's going to sting. It already has. So they will move down. They're out as of right now. They actually are probably almost to the next 4 out. That's how bad it hurts. The Broncos are going to need at least 2 wins in the Mountain West tournament plus some help. They probably, if they don't get a ton of help, are going to have to go to the Mountain West final right now. And at this time of year, with so many good teams, especially when you have the power of the power conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten in play, with so many teams that are so good and have so many quad 1 games and wins, this is what you run up against. You run up against a situation where if you're a Boise State and you lose 1 game, it drops your percentage to get in the tournament from about 65 to 70 down to about 20. And it's just, it's brutal, man. It's brutal if you're not in a power conference, but that's the way college basketball is. So Boise State out. They're actually significantly down the first 4. They're almost in the next 4 out. I think that Nebraska probably moves down a little bit as well. Through no really fault of their own. They do have a chance to get something back this weekend. They probably, a win for Nebraska is probably not going to put them in. A win tomorrow against Iowa will not put them in the tournament. It might move them up. They're kind of towards the bottom of the first 4 out, but Nebraska is going to win, is going to need to win Sunday tomorrow, and they're also going to need 1, probably 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament to have any realistic shot. Overall, a good enough 5 quad 1 wins, but 13 losses. And if you assume that they won't win the Big Ten tournament, that's 14 losses. That's a lot of losses to get into the NCAA tournament. Doesn't matter who you are, where you play. Doesn't matter if you're playing the top 25 teams every single week. 14 losses is a lot of L's to try to get into the NCAA tournament. So will their 2 quad 3 losses will also probably end up being their undoing. But as far as who needs what today, the Sooners, man. Sooners in Texas is going to be a fun game. I don't think it's an elimination game for either team. It's probably closer to an elimination game for Texas than it is for Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off a huge win against Mizzou. Texas is coming off a win too. A big win at Mississippi State. But the problem with that, with the Longhorns, is that overall, 5 quad 1 wins, but also 9 losses, but also 4 quad 2 losses. Those quad 2 losses can add up. 1 or 2 of them is forgivable, but when you start getting up into 4, the committee really starts taking note of it. The other thing to look at for Oklahoma, 4-1 against quad 2. So they have the same number of quad 1 wins. Oklahoma with only 1 quad 2 lost versus Texas's 4. So, I think that overall, whoever wins this game is probably pretty safe, unless they just go out in the SEC tournament and just get thumped and a lot of other teams win. So whoever wins between OU and Texas, I think is safe. Whoever loses that game, if it's Oklahoma, because right now most bracketology previews have Oklahoma in. I do as well. They're one of the last few teams in. Lenardi has Xavier, Oklahoma as his last 2 in. I personally, not that I know more than Joe, but I personally flip-flop that. I do think that Oklahoma is a better team. I think Oklahoma is a better team than Indiana as well. But who's the next team up? But I think that a loss won't kill the Sooners. But really all it'll do is whoever loses this game, it will just add 1 game that they'll have to win in the SEC tournament to feel comfortable. So Oklahoma, if they win, doesn't have to win any, I don't think. I think that they can still lose in the first round and be fine. Texas, if they lose today, they'll need 1 for sure, possibly 2. If Texas wins today, then they'll probably just need 1. 1 or get some help elsewhere. Elsewhere across the bracket or the projected bracket, I think that there's a few teams where if they lose this weekend, they're probably going to drop out. Ohio State, Indiana are are definitely two of those teams. Xavier would be another one. You can't lose against Providence in your Big East finale and still maintain it when you're one of the last four teams hanging on. And even though they are at the top of the last four teams in right now, it's them and Arkansas are on that line between playing on Tuesday and then getting a bye into the field of 64 is San Diego State, for the same reasons as Boise State, same reasons as any Mountain West team. San Diego State does have a quad 3 loss. I've talked over and over again about how when you're not from a power conference and you don't have a lot of quad 1 wins, SDSU has 3. With only one of them being out of conference. That was when they smoked Creighton. Is that the quad 2 and quad 3 losses tend to weigh on you more. It tends to weigh you down more. So SDSU, though, does control their own destiny. If they win today, if they win their regular season finale, and they should, they're at home against Nevada tonight. If they do win this game, I would probably put them as pretty safe, even if they go out in the first round of the Mountain West tournament. They win today and they win one game in the Mountain West tournament, they're fine. Just totally in. The other team, Arkansas is the last team on a bye right now. They do get a solid quad 1 opponent today. I think that they're probably pretty safe regardless at this point. The only way that Arkansas, I think, could drop out would be if they get beaten pretty soundly today, which at home against Mississippi State, I don't think will happen. It just needs to be competitive. And then they go out in the first round of the SEC tournament, and then other teams behind them make a little run. So a lot of things need to happen, I think, for the Hogs to miss the tournament. I would put them as pretty safe. I would also put Georgia pretty safe as well. Georgia, one win in the SEC tournament will do it for sure. They get a Vanderbilt team that they should win against today at home. And if they win this game, then it might not matter what happens in the SEC tournament. Any other team that the only other team, and in deference to Sosa, because I've talked about it 100 times, I'm not going to talk about the Heels today. We know the drill. We know where they're at. We know what they got to do. So we won't talk about them. But every other bubble team, whether it's Cincinnati or Wake Forest or SMU or even some of the mid majors, like if they don't win the Big West tournament, UCSD. It's just not going to happen this year. It's just not going to happen. And so just didn't want anybody to be surprised on Selection Sunday when, even I said it before, they won yesterday, and they're probably going to win Arch Madness, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with an at-large bid if I was Drake, if I lost in the Missouri Valley tournament.
Right. You want to win. You want to win that tournament because they've been down this road before. We know how that went.
Well, their problem here is that they've only played 2 quad 1 games. Now they've won them both, so that's good. But the problem is that they've played 24 games against quad 3 and quad 4 opponents. Now they are 21-3 in those games, but that's not what the committee looks at, because if you're an NCAA tournament team, you should beat quad 3 teams. You should beat quad 4 teams. What they're going to look at is those 3 losses are going to stick out like a sore thumb. And yeah, they were conference, and yeah, they were rivals, and yeah, they were close games. That doesn't matter. What matters is those quad 3 and quad 4 losses just absolutely kill you at this time of year. So for Drake, do I think that they're one of the best 68 teams in the country? Oh, absolutely. I think that they're one of the best 6. I think they're one of the top 40 teams in the country. Their problem is if they don't win Arch Madness, they only have 5 total games against quad 1 and quad 2. And that's a resume. If you're going at large, that's a resume that every single other bubble team has crushed. That's where you got to look beyond record. And that's where for all the shit that we would say every year about like, what is the committee looking at, whatever, they're putting so much emphasis on the net rankings right now that I have to appreciate it, just because 1, I'm a numbers and analytics guy, but 2, it's a uniform way to measure the teams. Now, Are there some, is there some deference to power conferences, to schools that might have big programs, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, there probably is. But if there was total deference to that, then North Carolina would be in right now because they have enough wins to be in. But as I said, the quad 1 and quad 2 games are what weighs the heaviest on a team's tournament resume. So if you ever want to try to decide between two teams, that's a really quick and easy way to do it, is to just go to the NCAA net rankings. It's got all their records against all those quad 1 through 4, and you can see where teams stack up. And it becomes pretty clear. And I think it'll become especially pretty clear once the actual bracket comes out, that quad 3, quad 4 losses kill you if you're buying for an at-large bid. And a lack of quad 1 wins is one of the next criteria to hurt you. So, that's where I think that any of those other bubble teams, they don't really have a realistic shot. The only thing that's going to save any of them right now is making a super, super deep run in their conference tournament, because the conference tournament is a way where if you're a bubble team where you can rack up quad 1 wins, bang, 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 bang in short succession, those count. Sometimes people think, well, do they weigh as heavily? They count the same. It's a quad 1 win. It's a quad 1 win. So if you're a Cincinnati and you go storming through the Big 12 tournament and you knock off let's say a Kansas and a Houston and a Iowa State, something like that, right? That's just three. What's that?
It just changes everything.
It does. It does. They count the same as when you play them during the regular season, or roughly the same, I should say, roughly the same, because of the net rankings, because it's a uniform way to just put it all into a mathematical formula and then split a few hairs at the end, but really rely heavily on those net rankings. So that's kind of an overall bracketology update for today. I think that any other team that I didn't mention that you've seen in on most tournament stuff is still in, like you're talking like your Vanderbilts, your New Mexicos, even if they don't win the conference tournament. West Virginia is probably safe. Mississippi State is safe. Ole Miss is for sure safe now. Anybody along that line is probably pretty safe. The only other team that I just wanted to quick talk about before we move on is that they're probably going to win their conference tournament anyway. But depending on what Dayton does, they might not, is VCU. So VCU right now, overall right now they're in, but that's just because of because they're in as an automatic qualifier. VCU 24-6 overall. They've only played 3 quad 1 games, and they are 3-4 against quad 2 and have a quad 4 loss. That is another resume where if they don't win the A10 tournament, let's say that Dayton gets them, let's say somebody else gets them, that is potentially going to be a killer, and they very well could be left out. So Drake and VCU are the two kind of mid-ish major conference teams that have just dominated during conference season. VCU, even with the loss last night, they still finished 15-3 in the A10. They're the number 1 seed in the tournament easily. Those are two teams that it would be very, very easy to leave them out. So keep an eye on those two. Keep an eye on Drake and VCU. Obviously, if they win their conference tournament, it's academic. But if they lose in their conference tournament, specifically if they lose early, I know Drake won yesterday. So, but if VCU loses early in the A10 tournament, they could be on the outside looking in. And then what that does is that opens the door for another bubble team right now. So, like a Texas, like a potential, like a North Carolina, like somebody like that. So, it could open the door. We don't know. But VCU, I would be very, very surprised if they lost in their conference tournament if they get in, same as Drake.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Let's get into today's slate. Obviously, we got a shit ton of games. It's Saturday. Everybody is locked in. We got Delaware versus Campbell in the CEA tournament. We got the Camels laying 2. with an over-under of 147.5. We know you love your CAA basketball.
I
Yes,
do.
very, very interesting. Early start, 2 p.m. What are we betting on and why are we betting on it in this one?
Yeah, I always look to potentially fade team totals for teams that are coming off of a game the day before that are jump shooting teams. And even though Delaware, you can see here, 32.2% of their points come from three, so it's a little more evenly distributed, but they do more recently they have been more heavily reliant on their shooters on the three. So I especially do that when they are playing the team that has the number one ranked 3-point defense in their conference, and as you can see, top 30 3-point defense in the country overall for the course of the year. These two teams played at Delaware on February 15th, and the game kind of flipped the script, 96-91, which obviously is a shitload of points, but that was at home. Delaware on the road shooting the ball is a much different story. That obviously we cashed Stony Brook for them yesterday, but Delaware does have a 56.4% to 53.1% effective field goal percentage margin between home and away from home. The other thing that they have is they've only been shooting 30.3% from deep in their last three. Their 3-point shooting away from home goes down from 36.5 overall to 34.9 compared to 38.5 at home. That's one of the things that they did very, very well in that first game was there was just a mountain of threes. Tons of threes attempted. In fact, to the point of Delaware made 13 of 22. So they just lit it up from deep. But that's kind of been their situation and who they've been at home. Campbell has had about a week off here. Now, Campbell hasn't been playing the best. They have lost 4 in a row. They've played the upper echelon of the CAA and gotten just smoked with Wilmington and Towson, Wilmington, Charleston. So with those three, you can forgive it a little bit because it is the upper echelon of the conference. Their loss against North Carolina A&T was pretty brutal, but against teams that are of similar strength, either on a neutral floor or at home for Campbell, their 3-point defense has been quite good. Again, I talked about how they're number one in the conference, and they are only allowing 34.2% away from home. That's actually not a bad mark for when you're talking about not on your home floor. And the other thing with Delaware here too is that in other games this year where they've had only a little bit of time, so like 1-2 days rest, again, this goes back to jump shooters. So they only had a couple days rest coming off of Delaware State to Duquesne. They only put up 66 points. They lost. They've had a few games where they've been under 70, only shooting about 32 to 33%. So because of all of that, Campbell's just not playing well enough offensively right now. And they don't, to me, I'm not convinced that their offense can carry them in a tournament game. So I'm not going to touch the spread. What I am going to do, though, is play the Delaware team total, Delaware Blue Hens team total under 72.5. That's the first official.
Obviously, that's metric based. I love it. The schedule as far as like rest and such. For me, I'm actually very much doing the same thing that we've done the last few Saturdays, which is looking at spots where value is there, but you might not be able to just chalk it one way. Iona and Liberty on the money line. I think both teams are in very great situations today. They're both favorites, short favorites, but they're the better team in the matchup. And I don't think the matchup is necessarily close based on who they're playing. I like Iona on the money line and Liberty on the money line for plus 145. It's available on FanDuel right now. Let me just get this because I have my notes. If you want to pull up the Iona game, you can. I don't know what you might have thoughts. I know you love Iona as well. You always because Sacred Heart. Iona going up against Sacred Heart. They're 4.5-point favorites. Obviously, I do like them to cover the 4.5, but to combine the money line with them and Liberty. You got a Liberty team that always seems to fare well this time of year, especially given the matchup.
No. You're right about Iona. Sacred Heart has the big thing that Sacred Heart has had some problems with throughout the course of this season has been on the boards. They've had multiple games where they've just been killed on the boards, despite the fact that they rank kind of towards the middle. Especially recently, they had a few games where they were out rebounded by 10 plus, and that's one thing that the Gales do well, as you can see here. Number one in the conference in offensive rebounding percentage. Gales fifth overall in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. So, totally agree with that look.
Second and third chances all game. Short favorite. They're going to win the game.
Yep.
Liberty going up against a Western Kentucky team. They're 3.5-point favorites. Obviously, again, another short line. On the money line, you combine them both. Minus 154. I don't know what people's juice threshold is. I don't particularly bet a bunch of games single in that capacity. However, if you do like the 154, I wouldn't be opposed to you just betting it straight. But both teams I love to win going away today. And that's the first one. This is the first set it and forget it parlay. I have another one at the end of the show. What the next game that we'll get into is the MAAC game.
Another MAC team.
Siena at Manhattan. Manhattan laying 3.5. With a total of 149.5.
Yep.
Which seems kind of high, but I'm sure you'll tell us as to why we should or should not bet on this one.
Yeah, nothing on the total here, but I'm for sure rocking with the home team. So in the MAC tournament, which does start next week, you have the top 6 teams get a bye. And right now, Manhattan is 4th and Siena is 7th. However, between 4 and 7, there's just one game that separates all of those teams. It's very, very jumbled up. So Manhattan gets an opportunity to clinch one of those top 6 seeds and get a bye in the conference tournament. It also, if you believe in this angle, it also happens to be senior day for them. And Siena does not have a lot of good history coming into Dratty Gymnasium. Very, very poor recent history going into Manhattan, or going into Riverdale is actually where the gym is. But I also look at this where one team is playing well, one team not so much. Manhattan, not only have they won 3 in a row, they've also won 6 of their last 8 with they're one of the only of those losses being the annual slugfest that is against Iona, the revenge game against Iona. For those of you that have followed me for a while, you know how brutal and bitter rivals these two are. And so losing at Iona is never something that I hold too much against Manhattan, because usually these two teams split. Their gyms are less than 20 minutes apart, and it's actually one of the best small college rivalry games. Their other loss during that period of time was by 3 against number 1 seed Quinnipiac. So the point being is that when you dive deeper into Manhattan's recent history, they're playing exceptionally well. They also have wins against multiple teams in the top 5 or 6 in the conference. Siena, not really so much. They've lost 2 of their last 3. Their one win before that was against bottom feeder, who I don't even think, they still can, but they probably won't. Niagara couldn't even qualify for the conference tournament. And they also had a really, really ugly home loss to the absolute bottom feeder of the conference. Bottom feeder in college basketball, Canisius, who was 3-27. One of those 3 wins was against the Saints, and it was at Siena. So offensively, though, Manhattan does a lot of nice things. They're actually number 1 overall in the conference in offensive efficiency. They have multiple guys that shoot the 3 very well, and defending jump shots and defending the 3 has been something that has been an issue for Siena on the road. Especially in their last 3, they're allowing 59.8% effective field goal percentage, 52.8 on the road compared to 50.6 at home. So all of those numbers, the 59.8 would be close to last. The 52.8 on the road is almost sub 300. The other advantage that Manhattan has is they don't foul. Sienna's offense is built on a lot of over-the-top dribble handoffs, a lot of guys attacking from the wing to get to the rim, and you can see it here in the metrics where they're number 1 overall in the conference and they're top 60 overall in the country in free throws attempted over field goals attempted. They have a high number of free throw attempts per game, and they have guys where they shoot almost 76% as a team from the free throw line. However, despite attempting over 21 free throws a game for the season, last 3, 19.7. So it's down a little bit. It's down even further on the road, 19.1. But what Manhattan's new system has done this year is really emphasize not fouling. Manhattan top 30 in the country in not fouling. In fact, over their last 3 games, they're only allowing opponents to shoot 11 free throws per game. 11. That would be second in all of college basketball. The other thing that they're not doing is they're not fouling at home. Only 14.5 free throws attempted. That ranks in the top 15. So I look at this one where there's been some issues with Siena defending the jump shot, which is one of Manhattan's specialties, as you can see, with their 3-point and overall shooting percentage. Best offense in the conference. One of the better mid-major offenses in college basketball. They run the floor exceptionally well too. And you have a defense that doesn't foul against a team that relies on getting to the line to get wins. So you factor all that in, you factor the seeding that they're playing for, you factor that it's senior day. 3.5 is pretty easy for me. Manhattan minus 3.5.
Yes, sir. I want to get into a game that everybody's probably going to call me a psycho for betting. You see it on the banner list. If you could pull up Ken Palm for me.
Yeah.
And listen, there's no reason whatsoever to put money on Ole Miss today, which is why I'm putting money on Ole Miss today. I have no reasoning as to why I would do this. I feel like they're being disrespected. Now, listen, I'm hearing Morel is questionable right now. We don't know if he's going to play. I'd prefer for him to play. That'd be fucking awesome, right? I have spoken great things about this Florida team. I think they could arguably be the best team in America. Now, I don't think they're going to lose today, but I think the 12.5 points against a Chris Beard coach team is just absolutely egregious. In their last 20, they haven't been beat by this. They've been beat by this number twice. 12.5 is a lot of points. I'm getting them at plus 7.5 first half on ESPN bet at minus 125. I have to take the Ole Miss Rebels in the first half. I just have to. I think Chris Beard is a very good coach. I think we monitor if Morel is playing. Obviously, 11 points per game might not sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you talk about how Ole Miss plays. They're not necessarily like a run you out the gym type of team, and they've been dependent on him making and missing shots has actually played a huge part in their success and failures throughout this season. Again, it's only 11 points, but again, the impact is a lot bigger than people might, initially anticipate. Official for me, Ole Miss plus 7.5 first half. It's probably the nastiest bet I've bet all season. It'll probably come down to the wire because again, Florida is the better team. There's no escaping that. There's no discussing that. I know that. I believe this is senior day for Florida, even though I'm not sure how many seniors they actually have on the team. But yeah, hold on. That's the wrong game on the screen, by the way.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just meant to say that. I'm like, that's not the right game, brother.
My bad.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? That's not what I looked at earlier. Because that looked kind of like close. Everything tells you to pick Florida if you pull
there
up.
You go.
Yeah, there's like no reason whatsoever to be betting on Ole Miss. That's more what I was looking for. It's pretty evident. Again, look, Florida is the better basketball team. There's really not much to discuss outside of them, missing free throws. But again, for me, the official is Ole Miss first half. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes under. I think the total is a little high, but I don't know your thoughts on the over under here at 157. I think it's
probably a little high. It's not something that I'm probably going to look to do. If you gave me a free play, I might take the under. However, this did open at 155.5. It's up to 157.5. So, you can make the argument that, especially with where the money is going, there's 55% of the money right now compared to 48% of the bets that's on the over. It's gone up, I think, to 157.5 everywhere now. So it's probably something I'm just going to stay away from.
Fair enough. Next game we're going to get into is the VMI UNC Greensboro matchup. SoCon tournament, 2:30 start. We got UNC Greensboro laying 9.5 on a neutral floor. That feels like a lot for a conference tournament game. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't take the Keydets today. I got to go with UNCG here. Look, UNCG did win both of these games. I'll explain a few reasons why in a second. They're head and shoulders better than VMI. They did only win by 3 the first time. That was at VMI. It's actually a pretty tough place to play. VMI has actually had a lot of success there against conference opponents, but VMI, after a period of time from mid-January to actually for about a month, mid-January to mid-February, they were actually covering at one of the highest rates in the country during that same period of time. They were just a cover machine. They were undervalued and had a stretch where they really, really played well. Those days have passed. They came to a screeching halt at Greensboro because they came to a screeching halt at Greensboro when they lost 80-54 and were never, ever once in that game. But since then, it hasn't been pretty. Lost 4 in a row, including 3 by double digits, including 2 by 20 or more, and Wofford beat them by 40. So, yes, they got a win yesterday, but, I mean, come on. Do we really count that one? That's the Citadel. They're 5-25. They're along with Canisius with one of the worst teams in college basketball. And they actually had a 19-point lead, and Citadel actually got it back into single digits before they ended up winning by 11. So VMI had a little stretch where they were playing better. That is not the case right now. You can see all the red on the VMI side right here. You can see all the red on VMI, especially with the turnover rate. UNC Greensboro does a decent job of forcing turnovers. It's one of the things that killed them the last time that they played. VMI had 17 turnovers. In fact, their point guard, Ricky Bradley Jr., had 5 on his own. They've had multiple games where they've had 20-plus turnovers. And in a conference tournament game, especially when you're playing a team that is significantly better than you, and you're coming off of just playing the night before, you just can't do that. And despite the fact that they were up by 19 yesterday, a lot of their starters played almost the whole game. VMI doesn't really have the longest bench. They only played 8. They played 9 guys, but they only played 8 guys more than 10 minutes. They had 3 of their starters had 34 plus minutes last night. So even though they ended up winning by 11, it was not really a comfortable 11. Elsewhere from an overall matchup perspective, UNC Greensboro is more athletic. Their guards are more athletic, which is what VMI's guards are not. So the one thing that VMI does do, as you can see here, number 1 in the conference, is get to the free throw line. However, after their first game where VMI got to the free throw line an ample number of times, they only shot 18 of them in their second game, and they only shot 35.4% from the floor. So you have a UNC Greensboro team who is playing reasonably well. I say reasonably well. They had a pretty ugly loss against ETSU, but overall they have won 6 of their last 8, and they also do a really, really nice job of shooting the 3, which is VMI's Achilles on defense. VMI was lucky last night that Citadel couldn't make a jump shot. It's been a problem all season, but UNC Greensboro shooting over 35% from the 3-point line over their last 3, the top 50 in college, and then they're also top 50 in college basketball in defending it. On the VMI side, it's pretty ugly, despite the fact that Citadel couldn't make a jump shot. VMI is allowing over 41% from the three-point line over their last 3 games. They're allowing almost 35% on the road. And that 41.8% over their last 3 games is almost dead last in college basketball. When you're playing against a team that shoots the ball as well as UNCG does, that has as athletic guards as UNCG does, and that has such a deep bench as UNCG does. You can see here they're top 100 in percentage of minutes that do come from their bench, that utilize a 9 to 10 man rotation, that a lot of guys are interchangeable. And when you have a team that only has 8 guys that played last night and most of the starters played, you get worn down over time. So I don't expect this to be an immediate cover. Like, I wouldn't expect UNCG to just rush out and just boat race them from the start. But I think over time, the cadets get worn down. They don't have enough offense. And when you get worn down like that, then your drives aren't as crisp. You don't get to the free throw line, and you're slow in rotation and can give up open jump shots. And you do that against the Spartans team, you're going to pay. So UNCG minus 9.5. You might see it at 10.5 in some places. Honestly, that's fine too. There are a number of paths for UNCG to win this game by 13, 14 plus.
Yes, sir. My bad. I'm over here. I'm laughing about something on the internet that I have no reason to be laughing about. That's
VMI is over. VMI is just straight up overmatched.
Complete dog shit. All right. Listen, final look of the day is a setup for a game that everybody wants to see. You got NC State taking on North Carolina in women's hoops. You got Notre Dame taking on Duke. I think that both North Carolina and Duke lose. You get an NC State Notre Dame matchup in the ACC championship for the ladies. 2 best teams, when they faced off against each other, it went to double overtime. You saw some of the best half-court sets executed in women's basketball. You're going to get NC State women and Notre Dame's women on the money line on FanDuel right now. You're going to get that parlay at plus 127. And that is going to be the one for the day. That's my favorite parlay. It's on the women's side. It's 2 teams that are 2 best coaches in the conference, 2 best rosters in the conference, 2 best teams in the conference, and they're destined to see each other again. I think Notre Dame gets their league back in the championship, and we'll get a playable line on Notre Dame in the conference championship. As they prepare to try and make a run for a national championship. I think Notre Dame is one of the top 4 teams in the country without question. Definitely have the best backcourt. Well, I guess Paige and AZ if they're healthy, right?
Probably.
People don't talk about AZ enough and how good she is and how amazing her and Paige as a unit are, right?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about Paige, and obviously with reason. Obviously, AZ's had like the 5 ACL surgeries. She's had a rough road of an NCAA career and a high school career for that matter. But I think that Hidalgo and Miles, I want to see them go head to head again with UConn and with Paige and AZ. And I think that we're destined for fireworks later on. But these 2 teams been the best teams in the ACC all year on the women's side. I expect no upsets. I expect for both of them to be A1 from day one and handle business.
Love it. All right. 4 final thoughts. I know we had a whole bunch of stuff in the chat, so just want to say shout out to everybody. Morning, Ben. Shout out to you, my guy. Stony Brook didn't look great to start, but they got it done. Ben says RJ Davis's points last home game at Carolina go out with a bang. I like that. I am a believer that for a number of teams that in the senior day angle, especially good players on senior day. So Wavy Visions, what's up, my guy? Anything above 12 L's, you're not getting in. Yep. Agreed. Thoughts on Marquette and St. John's? Marquette now at minus 3.5. Yeah. I've looked heavily at this game. It's so hard to bet against Rick, but keep in mind, Marquette is still fighting for, they don't have it clinched yet. Marquette is still fighting for a bid or for a buy in double buy in the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
St. John's has number 1 locked up. So you can play that angle. If you're going to play it, I think you almost have to go Marquette. I really do. Otherwise, just stay off.
I was talking to somebody this morning, and I was like, it's hard to bet against Rick, but like I think Rick is really looking at, listen, man, I really want to win that tournament in New York. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like he wants to win. And I don't know I don't know what the motivations are for today, knowing that you've already locked up the regular season title but it's Rick. It's tough.
It's hard to bet against Rick.
Yeah. Marquette and Feist are a better team. I'm staying away, but it's so difficult to bet against Rick.
Yep. Wavy says like Arkansas to secure the win, 86 points. Yep. Totally can see a Hogs win today, especially at home. What's up, Luke? Got down to UNI Valpo. It didn't start off very good. It was a pretty ugly start offensively. Game picked up a little bit, but shout out to Valpo, man. Shout out to Valpo. Gonna need Wake Forest to win today, so we can play Louisville next week. Currently have a double bye. Yeah, Wake Forest needs a bunch of help. They need a whole bunch of help. Like Manhattan -2.5. Yep, they're playing well, and it is senior night. Elsewhere, thoughts on Radford High Point? Ooh, that actually will be a fun game. That'll be a fun game. I would look on the over for that one, just because of High Point obviously has a very high-powered offense, and you have Radford, who is one of the better three-point shooting teams in the entire country. So when you have that mix in place, even though they've seen each other obviously already this year, I would still lean on the over. It's at a reasonable. I wouldn't say that it's like gotta bet it, but it's at a very reasonable 140 right now.
I wish that fucking game could end in a tie. The way High Point fucked me yesterday.
Yeah. Moneybag Tone.
53 points in the first half, and you can't score 35 in the second. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fuck them. Fuck High Point. I just had to I thought I could get through a whole show without them being brought up.
Yeah.
Kind of tried to Euro step it. Fuck them.
Oh, my. Hey, I didn't bring them up.
You absolute hoes. They hoed me yesterday. 85.5 to lose on a hook after you score 53 in the first half.
Yep. Ugly.
Absolutely disgusting.
Xavier says my fault. My bad.
It's just oh my Lord. That was like one of my toughest losses of the year, bro. I ain't gonna lie. That shit hurt.
Mike says we winning today, but I like the under. For those that don't know, Mike's talking about the Hogs. Mike's talking about Arkansas. RJ3, yep, took the High Point over. Of course, they scored. Of course.
How?
Of course.
I'm sorry. It's good to vent about these things. This is real life shit.
Yep.
And after the first half, I'm like, this is a breeze. It's gonna be super easy. We're gonna have second half. We're gonna easily score 40 points. They've scored 95 plus the last times we've seen them, and oh Lord.
Yep. All right. Any other games you want to touch on or chat quickly? If there's any other games that you wanted any thoughts on, and any quick thoughts, etc., we can certainly go through that.
I need Chris Beard today, man. I need Chris Beard to show me he's an elite coach. I think Florida is the only team here. Also, Alabama. I don't know your thoughts or sentiments. I feel like it's just too many points. I feel like Alabama's too many points with Auburn. Am I wrong? Am I fucking up?
Well,
because I see everything. Right? Auburn's coming off that loss to A&M, which we knew was coming. We knew they were going to lose to them.
Well, and with Broom's his shoulder,
look crazy, right?
I don't know. It's really hard for me to bet on Alabama against the road after I watched Auburn just tear them apart at home.
Yeah, and I think that the narrative of senior day is being baked into this a little bit more because he's got like a bunch of 60-year-olds on the roster.
Yeah, I know.
So they're all fucking seniors.
Yep.
So that they're like throwing that in there, and I'm just like, bro, like Broom looked like his fucking shoulder was hanging.
Yep.
His arm was hanging off the. So that was just my sentiments in regards to. I think it's too many points. I feel like Alabama could win the game outright. And do the reverse where Auburn went to their place and beat them.
Yeah, they can.
So and it's not like it's some like insane home road game. Obviously, the schools are close together. They're arch rivals. So I think that's really what I'm looking at with it. It's That's what I'm looking at. I just feel like it's way too many points.
Ooh, Jonathan Matthews, where's Adams, man? Them's fighting words. Kentucky money line. Ooh, I like it. Hey, 6.5 point spread. I like it, man. Hey, I will say too, though, from a pure value perspective, you can get a team like Kentucky, and Mizzou is incredibly tough to play at. There's just not even a question about it. Mizzou is incredibly tough on their home floor. When we faded them, or when I faded them with, or talked about fading them with Oklahoma, we actually did fade them in VIP and got it. I know Mike had brought it up too, that he was on the Oklahoma money line. Talked about some of their home road splits. Their home splits are just brutal. However, when you can get a team like Kentucky at plus 225, I can see the value. Mike says Kentucky on the road. Yeah, I'll pass. Yeah, I know. It's hard. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm just saying that when you get Kentucky at plus 225, you have to at least look. You have to at least pay attention.
Do I sound crazy when I say, like, I think Mizzou is good, like, is one of those teams that could, like, fuck around and beat anybody at any moment? I just, like, the more and more I look at some of the games they've played in, they've been, like, fair, like, ultra competitive with some teams that you just didn't see it coming. Are they one of those teams?
I mean, at home, yeah, they've.
But like, okay, I see that home and away. But what about like neutral sites? Like, is it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're one of those that could bring it against any team on any given night. I think that's like a legit thing.
Yeah, they can. Only run one neutral game this year against Illinois, but that was way back in December. These are two different teams than they were. Pure road games. It's been pretty ugly. They're 1 out of their last 6, or 1-5 in their last 6 true road games, I believe, with the only win being at Georgia back in February. But it has not been pretty away from home. I think that neutral floor is probably a little bit better, but for me to want to bank on the Tigers to do anything in the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to show me at least a little something in the SEC tournament to show that they can win against a quality opponent away from home. Because the only time that they've actually their only road win this year. So Memphis, they lost. Illinois was neutral. They lost. Auburn, they lost. They did win at Florida. At Florida was their other big win. But really, since January, they have not played well on the road or away from home at all. So if they show me something in the NCAA tournament, I might look to take them to either make the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or something on a futures bet. But their road splits have just been absolutely brutal. At home, though, they are way good at home. They are way good at home. Mike says, bad spot because Mizzou's coming off a bad loss. Like, terrible for Kentucky. Any shots Kentucky for the money line? Yep, I can get behind, but full game, it's Mizzou. RJ says, I think Mizzou bounces back at home. I totally can see it coming off 2 L's and they're at home. Yep, I get that part. And yeah, I totally understand it.
Pat, again, I'm all for believing in Big Blue Nation. I will say this: Pope's the guy. And Pope is going to be there for a cool minute. It's not going to be a situation where he's going to struggle to get players to come in. Look forward to see what that. I think Kentucky's in really good hands with him. I love what they did. I love how he's gone about this season. They're squarely in the tournament for sure. I think we can look at this Kentucky basketball season as a colossal success. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, basically overhauled everything from Cal, and they're still maintaining top 25. They're probably going to be, somewhere in the 7 to 10 or probably 7 to 9 range in the NCAA tournament. They have a chance to win 1, maybe 2 tournament games at least. Yeah, I think that Pope deserves a lot of credit for not even necessarily doing any kind of rebuild, but really just reloading.
Absolutely. Also taking a different method, going into the transfer portal and saying, listen, those vets are a good formula that's worked. It worked elsewhere at BYU. It's working now immediately.
Yep.
Other than that, I think we're going to get some great games. I'm very excited for conference tournament season. Like, extremely confident, extremely excited for conference tournaments. Especially the WCC. I think Gonzaga is going to win us back all our fucking money. I believe in them. I believe in them. I believe in them. They're going to get us back all our fucking money that they stole from us this season. They're going to get it back for us in the next 3 days. So stay tuned.
You know what I wish that I could, I'm sure books don't offer it, but I wish that I could see like what the odds would be on if the West Coast Conference final is two options, St. Mary's versus Gonzaga or any other final between
any other combo,
period,
right?
anything. I bet you it would be SMC and Zags at like minus 250, probably even worse.
Probably right.
Worse. Sorry, one last question. RJ3, Georgia winning versus Vandy. I think so. Yes. Georgia has everything to play for today. I think that they solidify their tournament resume. I actually think that Georgia wins pretty handily.
This the thing. Have we seen a team that was just so fucking trash all year, just like out of nowhere, just like figure it out? Like they win some games down the stretch and have you thinking like they can beat anybody or give somebody a run for their money all of a sudden?
No.
Georgia looked like their coach was out the door and everything was completely fucked. And then
around.
And out of nowhere, it's insane.
Yep.
I'm shocked.
But yeah. UGA Manhattan. Yeah, I'm all about Manhattan, man. I'm all about Manhattan. Ben says ACC tournament might be good depending on the seeding. There's a lot of teams that I think match up really well in the ACC. Obviously I'm not taking the ACC toe to toe against the SEC, et cetera, but I think that there's a lot of teams that match up really well in the ACC, and in conference tournament time, that actually makes for some really exciting games. I think that if you get like a Louisville Clemson in a semifinal or something like that, I think that if you get really anybody kind of in that
anybody but Duke, you say.
What's that?
Anybody but Duke, you say.
No, I don't hate Duke. I don't hate them.
Dude, we're gonna beat them today too. Take that to the bank.
Plus 400 right now if you want it.
Oh, yeah, plus 385, plus 400 on the money line. Fuck with North Carolina today. The boys gonna pull up and we're gonna disrespect Cooper flagging them. Don't take anything I just said seriously. I'm a fan. None of that. Don't take anything I just said serious. Spin anything before we get the fuck up out of here?
Nope. Best of luck to everybody. Best of luck. If tailing, we'll be back with you all through March, baby.
Fuck, dude.